Pat had a dream that you were preaching at this DBC thing, but in a hotel, and you were just walking around the table preaching to everybody, and then one of the staff came up to Pat and said, hey, someone's suing Pastor Jeff, and he has to leave because he's preaching too boring.
Yes, and just so we're in DBC thing. So it's like a conference of some sort, like a church.
Yeah.
And so like when he told me, I didn't have time to ask this before you guys left on your trip the other day. So like I'm walking around the table preaching, like I'm not even invited to be a speaker, and I'm just forcing myself to preach, or like is that what I'm doing?
Man. I think it's just who you are to preach.
It's just too much. So you're
forcing yourself to, dude. Every Sunday,
I'm just forcing it.
Yeah.
So no, Sophie, here's this question I want to ask your hubby, and I've been waiting for the last like 24 hours to ask you guys this. What does your husband think about me in his subconscious to produce those dreams?
I don't know.
I'm starting to wonder if Pat and my friendship is a facade.
You better talk to him about that.
In his mind, he's like, dude, I hate this dude. He's so boring. And I'm like, Pat, I don't know how to push the envelope for you there.
Maybe he's subconsciously analyzing your subconscious where you think that you're preaching boring
because
you're so in sync.
We're so close that he's processing my insecurities for me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oops. All right. Mental note: be less close to Pat. Pack it out of my head,
dude. I saw this spot. You guys know the comedian Chris D'Elia?
No.
Okay. Well, he's like a super vulgar comedian that I watched in the BC days, but he does some super hilarious stuff that isn't always super bad. But I was watching this podcast, just came up on a reel, and he was talking with somebody, and he was about to hit the punchline of a joke, and somebody interrupted him. And every time someone does that, he goes, oops, oops, you just interrupt, oops. And he just like freaks out because...
Like during his crowd work time? Like
no,
that's how he does crowd work?
Podcast.
Oh, it's not...
So he was like, someone would interrupt him with a thought, and he would just like deadpan to him and be like, oops.
And that's just how he runs his podcast?
Well, he was on a podcast.
He was a guest.
I don't think it was his. But anyway.
I was like, that would be sweet protocol if you're running your own podcast. And every time you have crosstalk, you just, oops.
So intimidating.
It is. It would...
I would just shut down.
He was like, oops. I was about to make the punchline and you oopsed.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. Man,
I'm going to use that.
Too bad he's a vulgar guy. Otherwise, I would I'm going to check this guy out.
You probably could.
What podcasts are you guys enjoying right now? You guys listening to any new podcasts lately?
No.
Okay.
I listen to the same ones. Like,
are you really enjoying that marriage one you started?
Yeah, it's still good.
Do you listen to it every week? Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm like way behind on most of my favorite podcasts, but I've been getting a lot of like really nice messages about the Ramble so far. Like
that's good.
I had somebody just message me the other day. They said that like it ministered right into where they're at in life, and like the mess. I can't share the message because it was really personal. I don't have their permission to share it, but the way they said it was so gracious, and I was thinking about how much of their heart they shared with me in this message. I should show it to you guys after the podcast, but like I thanked this individual in a way that I said it would have been so easy to keep this to yourself, and like the intentionality to go and share this part of your life with us is really, really special. And so man, it was just awesome. So I just wanted you guys to get that win. They're like, there's some people who have been blessed by this. So nice. All that being said, Pastor Jacob, what is on the agenda today?
Welcome back to the Ramble, number 1.
We didn't do intros.
My name is Jacob. That handsome, good-looking lady is Sophie. And
oops. Oops.
And we're here with Pastor Jeff, the senior global
Hey
pastor.
guys, welcome to the Ramble. We're so glad you're here today.
Dude,
welcome to the Ramble. We love you guys. We're here to talk about all this stuff, interrupt one another, and just do it all in the name of Jesus.
Sophie's over there just cringing right now. Okay. Yeah.
Let's make that the actual intro today. That's sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Yep.
We're not gonna have to restart it.
No, just let's just make that the intro.
Okay, good. Because it was a good intro.
Welcome to the Ramble with some of my favorite human beings in the history of mankind.
Oops.
Sophia Marie.
Hi.
Why are we doing 3 intros?
Pastor
So
Jacob.
Hey, welcome back to this introduction podcast where all we're gonna do is intros. Hey, welcome back to the Ramble. My name is Pastor.
Oh my goodness.
We could probably do. We could have fun doing that seriously for like an hour.
I'm so lonely.
And he's single, ladies. He's single, ready
so
to mingle. Us dating don't work, but he's willing to try it.
I'm so lonely. How do I make friends and how do I build good community to not be so lonely?
Aw.
How do I do it?
Aw.
That's what we're talking about today.
How to make friends. But this is gonna be the this is gonna be the best episode ever. Wait, you know why this?
I gotta
Goofy
interrupt.
today.
Oops! Last night when we were coming back from the Chris Redsman concert, Brittany was drinking her water. We were both just chugging water because we were so thirsty.
You and Brittany?
Yeah. And she was drinking it, and I made like the noise kids make when they drink, like go. You know, like super loud when they drink water, and she choked so bad on her water. It had me wheezing. Anyway,
I love it. It must have been hilarious because it's hard to get her to choke like that.
I have the worst community in the whole world. I don't know how to do it. How do I like? There's so many people out there who just feel so alone, like. They just need a boyfriend or a girlfriend to try to figure out how to not be lonely. And like, what do we do? Do we need to start dating to not be lonely? Like, I don't know how to stop being lonely.
Wow. Well, first of all, I'll pray for you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry for being bad community for you that you're so lonely.
Listen, I'm riffing here.
I know what you're doing, man. Man, what a beautiful thing to talk about, though, right? Like, we know that America is in like epidemic proportions of loneliness, and it's a, like, I say it's a shame, not in a way to like criticize people who are lonely, but it's a shame because of, you know, this period of history we're living in where we are so connected and we have so much community available to us. And so, man, community, like the way you set that up with dating makes it kind of a different, interesting conversation that I was thinking of, right? Like, how do we curb loneliness? How do we cure loneliness? And like I think we have to start off with Jesus before we even get to community, right? Like, there's this ability to have, and it's weird. It's a weird principle because I think it's not people's go-to, but like. Finding intimacy with the Lord to the degree that you're like, you would be okay if you were John banished to the island of Patmos all by yourself, and like the joy you would have in your daily fellowship with Jesus could like cure the need for human interaction. And like, I think like you start there with being capable of enjoying the Lord. And then what happens is when you're capable of just enjoying the Lord like that, then you become capable of having amazing community with human individuals. Yeah. Outside of that, man, what a good question. I just want to kind of even gather my thoughts for a few seconds. Sophie, what are some of your thoughts?
I do have a question for Sophie.
All right, ask Sophie the question.
Okay,
I just want to think
gather
about
your thoughts. Okay, so Sophie. I kind of started this off with talking about relationships, but you and Pat are like super close. You're best friends.
Besties.
You hang out all the time. Pat's her husband, by the way, if you didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You sounded like Eden there.
I did. I hang out with her too much.
Yeah, you do. So like you have an awesome relationship, at least from the outside. I guess I don't know what, you know.
Yes,
I don't
we
know
have
about
an awesome relationship.
I mean, I'm not like your roommate or anything. I don't.
It's true.
Anyway, I don't hear you guys fighting. But so it seems like you guys don't really have a need to like branch out in a way. Like you guys seem so united and like close and just great friends that it almost feels like you guys don't need community. Can you kind of speak into that? Like,
That's so tricky.
yeah.
Because we could be perfectly content, like, without community.
Oh,
But that doesn't mean it's healthy. Like, we're both
Oh.
introverts. So, and then we just like each other a lot. So we're like, we could just hang out with each other all the time and not need anybody else. And that would be fine. But I think you need other people to speak into things that your partner can't speak into sometimes. You need Christian community to call out things in yourself and your life, maybe sin struggles or stuff like that you're blind to, and maybe Pat would be blind to in me. And those things are the healthy parts of community that you can't find in just a marriage sometimes.
that's really interesting thought. Now, Pastor, this is the great transition.
Yeah. Okay, let's go. Transition away.
Wait, no, do you have thoughts that you want to share?
No, I mean, like, I don't know. You triggered me with like the dating to fill the void type thing. And I don't want to start like a sermon on that, because I'm probably working on a sermon on that right now.
Good.
But, like, oh man, just anyways, transition. Tell me where you're going with this. Cause I feel like you're fishing for something.
Yeah. So we have two things, right, that we just exposed, that there is a need for people to have community, and they can search for it in relationships like Pat and Sophie, great example. They are perfectly content being alone, but it's not healthy. So what would define, like, what are the values of healthy Christian community that you would say?
What would define healthy? Like, how do we tell you if you have it? Or
Like, what are the
do you mean?
values of a healthy Christian community?
Yeah. Well, man, I think acknowledging, like Sophie did with wisdom, that whether it's something you crave from the depths of your soul, or whether you have tendencies to be alone, that's part of God's design for us, right? Like, I always start with Genesis. Adam was perfect in the garden, right? Before the fall, there's this moment in history that just it's breathtaking. Like, Sophie asked this question on our social media the other day: if you could meet one person in the Bible, who would it be? I want to meet pre-fall Adam. Like, I want to meet day one Adam, and just like see what a human being would look like in this like original state of creation, where like he didn't suffer. There's no indication, at least, that he suffered from loneliness or anything. Like, he's completely satisfied in his relationship with God. But even in his perfect state, what was God's initial reaction to this part of creation?
It is not good that man should be alone.
Boom. So it's like God made us to be in need of relationship, and he looks at all of creation, all the animals, is like, cool. The dog was probably a close companion, but he wasn't good enough, so we still needed to make a suitable person to do life with. But
Yeah,
I
that's
think
because cats hadn't been domesticated yet.
darn cats. But so then you think about it even farther, right? So then I think a lot of people use that to land on the marriage side of things. Like, okay, well, find a spouse and leave and cleave and all that stuff, and just be together, and then you're good. But like, that wasn't actually God's ultimate plan. He said, like, then the plan was to be fruitful and multiply, so that entire communities would be filled. And then the Great Commission is also the same thing. Like, community has always been part of God's design for humanity. He's like, okay, don't just find a spouse. Fill the planet with humans. Those humans fill the planet with communities. Like this is theologically throughout all the Bible, because then you have Babel, right? They didn't fulfill the command to fill the planet with communities. They were staying isolated. So like, God's like, no, this is rebellion. You are supposed to fill the earth with my glory and communities of humans. So now I scatter you. Ooh. And then the Great Commission, and the point of scattering was so the earth would be filled with communities of people worshiping together. And then the Great Commission is like, okay, now there are communities all over the planet, but they're not worshiping together, so go reach them so they can worship together. Like, it's just absolutely incredible. And I went on a rabbit trail there that I don't remember even what your original question was, but let's go.
We're going to have to throw these questions out, because this is good thought. You said that, like, God's command was to be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, take dominion over it. Like, And then we look at Babel. That was a really interesting comparison that you made, because we look at Babel and they weren't going out; they were building up. And like the Imago Dei, super great theology. Like,
I knew I was going to trigger you with that. It's your favorite thing.
I wrote a paper on it, and like God gave us his image and his likeness. So because God is in community with himself, and because he is love, and it's almost as if we're born, well, we are born of love. Like that's the reason why God created us, was because he is love. Mm-hmm. It would make sense that we as believers would do the same thing in spreading out the love of God.
Oh yeah.
By through community, through procreation, and bringing dominion, bringing everything into submission under the hand of mankind. But yeah, that was a really interesting parallel that you made with Babel, like not doing that. They were storing up for themselves. And
yeah, I mean, like I think when we go to Babel, a lot of times we talk about their rebellion to try to rise up to heaven, which is they were punished for that, right? But aside from that, his result was to scatter them, because their rebellion was also not just pride trying to go to God, but resisting God's ultimate command to subdue the earth and fill with his glory. But I want to go back to your original thought. Like, how would you answer your own question about the core values of strong Christian community?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is, number one, we're holding one another accountable. So accountability is huge. Vulnerability is huge. And because accountability without vulnerability is just lying.
Ooh, and say that again. That's
accountability good. Without vulnerability is just lying. You're just saying, hey, hold me accountable for this, but you're not telling them anything. You're just withholding information.
Say that one more time. Somebody's going to write that down and put it on their mirror or something.
All right.
Probably Sophie.
Accountability without vulnerability is just lying. It's deception. And then vulnerability without accountability is just counseling. Like it's just therapy, you know? Yeah. I shouldn't say that, but I mean, it's just like, you're just sharing your feelings, you're spilling the tea, you know, there's no real accountability there. So those two are key. They go hand in hand. And like, I think those are at the foundation of community. And then for good, like Christian community, it's never about us, but it's about worship in the middle of what we're doing.
It's not even about each other. It's about togetherness with Christ.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I think we can have fun and we can enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's not really about us and enjoying it as the purpose. It's about bringing glory to God, because I think, like Luke and I talk about this all the time. Like we get together and we always have a blast. We're always laughing. There's never a time where we're not having fun. And I think that brings God glory in a lot of ways, that we are able to enjoy one another's company and laugh and just have joy.
Yeah.
Now, we kind of talked about this in a number of episodes ago, where friendship needs to have a purpose. Like it needs to have I remember you bringing that up, and I remember like hearing that, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, and I like still wrestle with it. Like I don't know where I'm landing, but how do we take like Christian community, like godly community, and what its purpose is to glorify God, to be vulnerable and accountable to one another? How do we take that and like reconcile it, and how does it fit in with like the individualism of the world? Like we're just here for ourselves. Like how do those things clash? How do they come together? Like,
yeah, I want to ask Sophie a question quick, and I want you to tighten up that question. Like tighten up that question for me. I think I know where you're going, but I want to hear a little more clarity in that question. So, Sophie, do you have any other values that you think would be good to like add to the, like what values would make good Christian community? If you don't have to, he gave really good answers.
I don't.
I think it'd be fun to create like a more extensive list. Like we have like, hey, these two things, vulnerability and accountability, make good Christian community. I was thinking like, is there anything else to explore to add to maybe that list for people who are, you know, listening in this conversation? Because it is more than that, right? It's more than accountability and vulnerability. Like, and then you added one like enjoyability could probably be a third component. And I'm just thinking like, there's probably like, man, it would be a fun, I think it'd be a fun exercise to just sit down and like even write. And I'm nerdy like that. I just like to make lists, like 10 traits of healthy Christian community. But all right. So tighten up that question for me. Say that again.
How do we balance God's command for Christian community with the individualistic nature of society?
What do you? So I still don't get like what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So God is calling us, like going back to Sophie's example, she's content. Her and her husband are content, like being with each other. That would be the individualistic societal expectation.
Okay.
Like you're just in your own little group, a little pocket, perhaps. And like, how do we balance that being alone, being in solitude, with being in community?
I mean, so that's really fun thought. Like, I think what you got to do is you need to build a circle of Christian community, Christian friends, family, whatever, that you're accountable to regular fellowship with. And I think that forces you to balance. I think that forces you to balance your individualism versus your solitude. So like, Sophie and Pat are a good example. We do Fresh Friday, and that's our protected rhythm of hanging out for the most part. And my wife is very introverted, just like Pat and Sophie. My wife would be content to live on a deserted island with a few books and nature, and she could live probably for years without human interaction. And it's weird because she loves people so much. Like she spends her whole life serving people, but she has no problems being alone. So like having time where you're committed to this relationship with other Christians is it's good for you. Even if you're good being alone, it's good for you not to be alone. And so I think like building something that you're accountable to is how you balance it. Like, cause then if your nature is solitude, there's something in your life that creates resistance. And this goes into what you were talking about before, how I talked about how relationships should have a purpose, right? And they do. This is my point in that before is every relationship does have a purpose. You just probably haven't defined it, right? So like most people who have a friend, like if you have a friend who you only goof off with, that's the purpose of that friendship, is someone to be goofy with, right? If you have a friend who you only call when you're in trouble, well then, in a righteous kind of way, you probably have a friendship where like you use them to help you. And that's the purpose of that friendship. You have a friend who you're more likely to pray with, friend you're less likely to pray with. Well, probably one of the purposes of that friendship is to pray with them. But I think one of the reasons some people struggle with strong Christian community is, I think sometimes when we enter adulthood, I think adults often get less good at, especially when you start a family, I think adults get less good at community because I think we maintain what I would call a more adolescent view of friendship, right? Like when you're a kid, and you wrestled with this when you first came on staff. Like when you're a kid, college life, high school life, whatever, so much of your life is built around spontaneous fellowship, right? It's spontaneous fellowship. Hey, we're kids together. We're adult kids, but we're kids together, and I mean that graciously to like college students, but it's like, hey, I have some free time to go have fun. Hey, who can I call? Who's going to go have fun with me? And the purpose of that friendship is to have fun and unwind when you're not busy studying or whatever. But then like when you start like building a career or having family or whatever, it's like now your life becomes more rigid. And so then how do you have good community then? Because that's when a lot of people just start floundering and having loneliness and no community, because it's you didn't adapt to, I would say, a more mature sense of community and friendship, where it's like everything important in your life starts to maybe become more scheduled at some point, right? Where you're flourishing. Your kids have a sport activity that's scheduled. You build your life around that schedule. Your work has a schedule. You're taking care of your house has a schedule. Everything has some sort of routine and schedule. And then we're like, wow, I haven't seen this happens all the time, right? Like I haven't seen these friends in like 3 years. Where'd the time go? Like a lot of adults will wake up one day and they'll be like, where did the time go? I haven't seen this friend in 3 years. Well, why? Because you scheduled everything else that was important except for your friendship you thought would be spontaneous, but your life doesn't have room for as much spontaneity. And so like to drive this principle home, when marriages start to struggle is when they have kids and professional careers and everything, and they stop scheduling date time, right? And so the couples who go to this next season of life and they schedule date time, they're the ones who have the strong, healthy marriages. And it's like the number one counseling recommendation for couples to have a strong marriage is to schedule a date. And so I say all that just to give a lot of like clear imagery behind, well, strong Christian community needs to have the same components of every other strong relationship. You build it into your schedule as a non-negotiable. Right? Does that make sense? I used a lot of words there, but I just want to make sure like there's a super clear point. Sophie, that kind of makes some clear sense there.
Yep. Makes sense.
Good. And I use that to kind of make this shameless plug. I think like you don't start building strong Christian community by spontaneity. You start it with structure. Go join a small group, be at church every Sunday and meet people. And through that structured relationship, spontaneous relationships can be born, right? It's like, but we want, I think a lot of times we grow dissatisfied because like the spontaneous relationship didn't happen right away. Well, it's because people set themselves up for failure. They don't live in an environment where they're going to meet people well enough to have that spontaneity, right? It's like when we're kids, where do we meet a lot of the people that we build spontaneous relationships with?
School.
Which is what? It's a structured, routine environment where you see them all the time, where you have time to build a relationship that can be spontaneous. And I think we put these unrealistic expectations on the church where it's like, hey, I've been there for like a month, or even though I went once, I've been there for 6 months and I go once a month. Why doesn't anybody ever want to hang out with me? Well, it's like, because you never built the routine to know anybody well enough to hang out with you. And so we're maintaining that adolescent view of relationships. And I don't blame anybody for this, right? Like, who sits around to ponder the complexity of this? Like, I think that's why this episode is really important, is like we can explain the complexity of a problem most people suffer from because there's no reason to stop and think about these complexities. We think about it because we are observers of community. We try to help people build healthy community.
Right. Sophie, you're a super introvert. So like, I think of you when we're talking like, oh, you didn't like, not like you personally, but just like your personality type, like, oh, you didn't make an effort to like hop into community. How did you as an introvert like step into something, step into like building community better?
I don't know if I did.
Oh no. But
I still don't think I'm good at it.
Well, I mean, you've got like, well, Fresh Friday group, but then you've got like your disciples, and then you've got like you and Megan are kind of close, and then like you guys do spontaneous stuff. No, okay, never mind. Well,
I don't have a good community. No, I have a good community, but not from me choosing it.
Well, so I would go in a different direction with that, Sophie. So like, I think you did what I just described. Right, you had organic relationships born out of your ridiculous consistency into the existing community environment, right? Like,
yeah,
like you've been coming to Restore for years. You and Brittany both are the type of people where it would like, because you're introverts, I think sometimes it's hard to make those deep friendships. But then you guys built a really deep friendship out of that together, and like you probably have some of the healthiest community out of anybody I know. And I don't know if you recognize that, but from like my observation, and I know you really well, we're really close, spend a lot of time together. You have some of the deepest community I know, but it's in a smaller circle.
Yes, very small circle.
but statistically, like every healthy relational study would agree that people with a strong, small circle of people are way healthier than people who have a huge circle of strangers around them, right? Like I think about a few of your friends. It's like you guys don't hang out all the time, but you hang out regularly. Then you have your other friends who, like, it's deep, like your discipleship relationships. You have deep relationships with them. Maybe not spontaneous, go hang out, but that's not the purpose of those relationships. And then you do have the spontaneous one, like you and my wife just went out to this concert last night, and I took Zeke to the parent-teacher conferences, my 2-year-old, while you guys went to that, and you're welcome.
Dude, Zeke would have loved it there. He would have had such a good time.
Listen, he loved parent-teacher
Those
conferences.
security guards would have just tackled him trying to get into that wristband area.
He would have tackled those security guards. Man, at the conferences last night, we're trying so hard. The teacher's being so gracious, telling me how amazing Elijah is. And we're giving him toys to play with, and he takes the toy, he looks at the toy, and then he just ignores the toy to go to something else he's not supposed to touch. So he's like running across the classroom trying to just dive bomb the dry erase board so he can, because he's used to be able to run around church and like draw on dry erase boards, and we have them at home and at my office and stuff. So when he sees one, he's like, this is mine. And so it was the most embarrassing parent-teacher conference in my life, but I digress.
Man,
healthy community.
So yeah, I think what you've talked about is super good. Like, there's a purpose for community, there's a purpose for friendships. We kind of hit on that a little bit. I appreciate you like talking about that a little bit more too. And the way we build it, how to get it, is we just we show up, right? We show up to where things are happening, and by being consistent, by showing up, by being present, by being open to those things, community will happen naturally,
unless you force it not to, right?
Yeah. So here's my last question for you. You are the mega mind of the church. You think about all of the things. What are a few things that churches who might be listening, or even we as a church in a more broader sense, could be thinking about? Like, what are some ways that we can practically develop a better sense of belonging in community that would make these like people showing up and finding community more natural? What are some practical steps that we have done or that we could do to make that happen? Yeah,
but man, that's so good. First, I want to talk to the people in our circle who maybe struggle with good community, and I want to speak to them really quick. I think that how do I say this? I want to say this really graciously, but when a church is terrific at hospitality, I think, and I'm not saying we should be bad at hospitality, but I think sometimes we create an environment where we could accidentally set people up for failure to build good community. And here's what I mean by that. And this is kind of behind a lot of what I've already said today, is that you get so used to that the initial stages is like, wow, we're so glad you're here. Oh, wow, hey, we're still so glad you're here. Oh, awesome, good to see you again. Here's amenities. Here, like, we have this for you. Here's a gift. Here's welcome. But then, like, when you're not a guest anymore,
right? Then
it's like, oh, wait, who loves me?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody likes me. Or it's like, well, no. It's like, you have to, and this is what I really want people to hear is like, you have to make a mental shift and say like, all right, I had my season as a guest and I can feel like it's over. Now I'm going to take the initiative to no longer be a guest. And so I think like some people struggle with community because they build the initial relationship off of just being served. And then they expect that to continue without ever shifting gears and saying, no, I'm going to serve now. I'm going to welcome people now. And you'll see some people like they show up on a Sunday morning church service. And church is probably, Sophie, you said this when we were chit-chatting before we started, church is probably like the best place to meet people right now. And develop that thought, because I want to hear some of that from you. You said some really good stuff before we started recording. But like, then you show up and you sit there and you kind of build this barrier that very clearly tells people like, don't talk to me or I'm not going to talk to you unless you come here. But at some point, even if you're an introvert, like you're going to meet somebody who you're comfortable talking with, and you do yourself a disservice by just saying like, I'm only going to sit here and wait for that one person who I click with to come talk to me. And I think you switch from being a guest to a partner in ministry or a contributor. And then you put yourself in a structured environment, whether it's going to a small group or joining a team, because those are more social environments. And like what stinks about it is for people who don't get there is those environments we're describing, they're environments that literally they're waiting to love you. Like when you do enter those new environments where I say like you go deeper into the church life, they're like, all right, well, cool. I have no way of knowing you in this crowd of 400 people, but when you join my team or join my small group, like this group exists for newcomers to join, so I can love you and pray for you and know you and this and that. And so I think like that's probably the most important thing we could say to people is like, have a mindset of saying, I'll be a guest, but not forever. And I'm going to build community for myself and not rely on people to manufacture it for me. I'm going to find somebody. Like I'm going to be the one who invites somebody out to coffee sometime. So do you have that thought yet on like why the church or Christianity? I remember how you said it. I just liked it so much.
I mean, I think I just said that the church is one of the only good places to meet or like build community. But I think that thought is kind of what you talked about with the mature relationship thing, is that people don't have a place to meet people out after they graduate college or once they have kids or stuff like that. They don't have a place to meet new people or build that community. So going to a structured environment like church where you have to get together every well, you don't have to, but where you have the opportunity to get together every Sunday and people are really nice and welcoming and they want you to be there, that is really appealing to people that don't have community.
Yeah. And like, what's the alternative? Like, where else are people meeting people? Like, I meet so many people and they meet people at the bar and then they build their relationship and you know what? Go drink responsibly. I'm not a big fan of alcohol, but like go drink responsibly. See, I'm so against it. I can't even say responsibly. But you know
who wasn't against it?
Shut up. Shut your mouth. but I'm saying like how many people do we all know who they build their relationship around going to the bar because they don't know where else to meet people. Right. But now that relationship over time, their bonding agent is alcohol.
Yeah. So I thought I had, like, speaking to when I first came on staff, I thought I had a whole lot of friends. And it turns out the bonding agent that kept me close with these friends was, in fact, alcohol. So, like, before I, like, got serious and I stopped, like, partying and all that stuff, like, I was hanging out with my friends spontaneously on, Wednesdays were pitcher night at the 9, $6, you just go after it. I mean, what else is a college kid supposed to do?
Exactly. In my mind, what else?
I don't recommend that. But, like, and then,
nothing.
Fridays and Saturdays, I'm out doing whatever. And it's like I was so close. I felt like I was so close with all these friends. But as soon as I started getting serious about my faith, I realized just how far apart we were. Mm-hmm. And that the only thing that brought us together was midnight downtown. Whoa.
So take that, bring it full circle to how we started this conversation. Yeah. Now you've identified the purpose of the relationship. And this is where a lot of like people grow up and get really sad. When you finally have to define what the purpose of that relationship was.
DTR,
define the relationship. And then what happens is you realize it's a shallow answer. Yeah. Right. And it's like I had like a heartbreaking breakup with quote unquote breakup with one of my childhood best friends. And what happened was like I grew up and I wanted to do something with my life. And he grew up and he wanted to just be a man boy. And I realized like in the sad, it's probably one of those heartbreaking relationships I've ever lost. Like it broke me more than like any girlfriend breakup thing. Like it was just heartbroken losing this really good friend like this. And well, I mean, what he revealed to me was our friendship was me being a source of entertainment for him. And when I ceased to entertain, he ceased to love me as a friend. And this goes like where Sophie started cooking with that, like why Christianity, why the church is such a good place to initiate relationships and build communities, like because maybe there's some resistance to get there, right? Because we're seeking what you said when we started, vulnerable, accountable relationships. That's kind of one of the core values of probably strong Christian community. Well, now there's resistance to get there. Why? Because it's deep. Right? Because it's deep, so it'll probably have more resistance to become real because it has to go deep, right? But then when you finally have it, you probably for the first time in your life have a really, really, really authentic relationship that can transcend seasons of life. And I think about the three of us, like we are like some best friends in each other's lives. Probably you guys are probably some best friends I've ever had, and our relationship. Yeah, shut up. Don't cry.
Shut up, dude.
He's being so sentimental.
I know.
I'm trying to have the right response, man. And
I know. I just ruined that. But I'm gonna sound like a jerk when people listen to this. People listen to this. Oops. People listen. I sound like a jerk. But let's bring it back into like, you guys are some of my closest friends I've had, and I think a couple other people in our circle, and like, because Christ is our bonding agent, and like authenticity, accountability, prayer, fellowship, like those things are like the bonding agent of our friendship. We are really good friends, and we're in hugely different seasons of life.
Yeah.
You're a single bachelor.
Yeah.
You and Pat are still almost like younger newlyweds. Brittany and I are like the old couple with a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And usually, outside of my observation, outside of like Christendom, our different seasons are the death sentence to our friendship. Like, right? But instead of somehow like we just keep growing closer and closer and closer.
Yeah.
Or I think about, and a lot of people reject this because people don't want to be as scheduled or structured with their life as I do. But I'm like, I have a couple friends. They're some of my best friends, and we only hang out when something gets put on the calendar a month in advance because we're too busy. I'm so excited for this quadruple super date with the Bjorns we have.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I get a notification about it every day.
Yeah, you get a notification
you don't forget every day.
I need to figure it out.
So like we're gonna go. Like, that's as close to spontaneous hanging out as I get sometimes, right?
Wait, what are we doing?
We're gonna go. We're doing the hot blazing challenge. Doing the blazing challenge.
Oh, I can't.
Blazing challenge.
I can't do it.
It's okay. Me and Daniel are gonna do it. But I'm like,
I have to do it.
They're some of my best friends too, and it's like, but our relationship primarily exists a month out on the calendar at a time. Because why? Well, they're super crazy busy taking care of their kids and doing their life and doing their ministry. I'm super crazy with all my stuff. And so it's like, but because it's deep, it becomes scheduled, prioritized, and meaningful, right? So, man, I could talk about this all day. Like, I think there's still 20,000 other directions we go. Is there anything you guys want to like plug in here? I really liked your technology idea. We didn't get to talk about that today.
We probably just need to do a part 2. Like, ditch the other one and just rock with the part 2. What do you think, Sophia?
We'll decide. We'll decide between takes.
Yeah, man, this is a really good conversation. I have so many other thoughts that I want to talk about. Like,
hey, sorry, go ahead. I'm just interrupting.
We just need
you.
to do. Oops. We need to do like a Joe Rogan style where we just sit here for 3 hours and.
Well, we were watching them over, and we're like, "Yeah, we'll do part 2," and we never did it.
I heard that.
All right. Hey, guys, we are out for today. Hey, we love you to pieces. Like, comment, share. I would love to hear and read your comments about community, any ideas that this sparked in your life, anything that you wish we would have talked about in terms of Christian community or community in general, all that. Anyways, like, comment, share, subscribe, all this stuff. We love you. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.
Turn to your camera, Sophie.
Bye.
There you go.